Hello and welcome, or welcome back to Sophie Knits. This is a podcast where we talk about knitting, spinning, a little sewing. It's lovely to have you. This is podcast number 4, and I've been doing these sort of around about monthly, but I'm not really precise about it. I thought it had been a long enough period of time to update you on some of what I've been making. Just before I start, I do have a pretty bad cold at the moment, but just timing wise, I'm now back to work, so I'm having to be a little bit more intentional about when I film. And today is a good opportunity, so despite my kind of congestedness, I thought, let's chat to you. So apologies if I'm a little bit sniffly. So let's start with my first finished object, which is actually what I'm wearing. And this is the Shell Tee by the Knit Pearl Girl that I actually test knitted. It was my first test knit. I had a fab time, it was great. The pattern was brilliant and the experience of test knitting for her was also lovely. There were no issues I had with the pattern, and when I sort of had any questions, they were answered really quickly. And we have a little WhatsApp group that we're able to chat about our progress together, which is really nice, like a social aspect too. So yeah, really enjoyed the process of this one, and would definitely test knit for her again. I will put in some pictures for you of this one just so you can see it. Obviously you're seeing part of it of me, but sitting down you can't see the whole kind of design. This one is a fingering weight tee. It's got a raglan shaping and some short rows. It was, I would say, pretty easy, simple design to knit. I don't think it's particularly complicated, so if you're relatively new to knitting, it could be a good one. And I did copy Sophie's suggestions in terms of a 6 stripe repeat, so it's totally up to you. You can make it striped, not striped, or thick and thin, however you want. But I did like the balance of that look. I think that's part of what drew me to the pattern originally on her Instagram, so I did go for that. And I knitted it with Looms Alpaca Linen in the shades Milk Tea, which is the sort of tan beige colour, and then Murmuration, which is that dark green colour of the stripes. I love the colour Murmuration. It's such a good name for the colour that it is. And I really enjoyed this yarn actually. I've enjoyed it an awful lot. From those yarns I've knitted with that are more summer friendly this year, it's definitely my favourite. It feels very soft and it was easy to work with. I actually also used slightly less yardage than I expected to in knitting up this sample. So I had 2 skeins of each, so I knew I was covered, just expecting that with the test knitting it might be slightly different. So I got 2 just so I knew that they'd be all good, and I actually didn't use either, I didn't have to break into either colour of the second skein. So I do have 2 skeins left, and I'm excited to kind of think about what I might be able to use those for. I did knit this one to the recommended length, and I also knit the sleeves to the recommended length. I just think it's a flattering fit, and that kind of t-shirt fit. And I think it's very wearable. I've been wearing it with jeans, I've worn it to work a couple times. So we enjoyed that finished object. My next finished object is also another fingering weight tee, so we're doing well. Sorry, it's a little bit crumpled. I think I'm going to put some photos in of this one too, just to get the details a little bit better. But yes, this one is the Moonset Tee, and this one's by Azetta. First time knitting an Azetta pattern, and I enjoyed it. I think that there were some really clever details. I will just show you on here again, apologies for the creasing. But this neck detailing here, the V-neck, is such a clever detail. So you are sort of knitting independently and then bring it together here. I don't know whether you can see. So that's part of what you're knitting in your way round. You don't have to go back round to make that. And it, apart from at the back, and it just came together all of a sudden. It was a really satisfying process knitting this one, because you're like, I'm not sure how this is going to work, and then suddenly you have a V-neck top, which just really satisfying. This one is knitted in Hedgehog Fibres sock yarn in the colour Ghost. I really like this, and I did a whole process vlog about the process of making this one. It's just music and some subtitles, so it's quite a chill one, but I will link that up above in the cards. And yeah, I could see myself making another of these. I've done it as a very boxy, cropped fit, which I do really like. I think it works particularly well over skirts, but I could also see myself potentially wearing it over dresses. I haven't actually done that yet, but yes, I do think that it's pretty versatile. I'm so proud of myself for finishing like 2 fingering weight. I know I'd started that one, but like 2 fingering weight things, t-shirts in an update. I feel very proud. The others are accessories, so those are my 2 finished garments for this month. The first one I don't think you've seen at all, so it's this little one here. I will put it on. Because I've had my hair cut short, I'm still not like 100% used to it yet. The vibe is not vibing as much. Because it is a little bandana. Hang on, let's fiddle. So I think it's kind of cute with short hair, but it definitely, I think, was a bit easier to style with longer hair. So this is the Romanticist bandana. Ooh, I can't remember who the designer was. I'll put it below for you. And I'll keep this one on while we're talking. And I made this one mainly to use up a skein of Sanders Garnline that I had left over from my Sabai top. And it uses like pretty much that quantity of yarn, and it worked, I think, fairly well. I'll just show you here. It's a little lace detailing that personally to me reminds me of flowers. And I thought it was just quite a pretty little pattern. It worked up incredibly quickly. So it's definitely one that if you have a spare skein of Sanders Garnline lying around, I'd recommend it. I think it's super cute. And yeah, I think I was styling this more easily with long hair. That would be my only thing, is I think with a bob, the Sanders Garnline, it's like a little bit too structured. Maybe if I beat it up a bit more and wash it a few more times, and it does tent a little bit. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say, is I think having a bit more volume and a bit more hair in it probably prevents that. And then my last finished object is a pair of socks. These are the Quilted cabin socks by Horse Feather Fibres, and I knitted these ones in the Woollen Witch in the colour Scarab Beetle. This was my Mother's Day present, this 50g skein. And I love that she does 50g sock skeins. So personally for me, 50g is perfect. So 25g per sock is exactly the right amount of yarn. I need no more than that. And whenever I have to buy sock yarn, most of the time it's in 100g, and I end up with like a whole nother pair of socks left over. But Tom's feet are slightly bigger than mine, so it's not quite enough for us to both have a pair of socks. So I end up with this like weird thing of being able to have 2 socks in identical colours. Anyway, all to say, this was in 50g, which I love because it means that there's just the right amount for a pair of socks for me. And I really think the colour is gorgeous. I think it's even prettier knitted up than it looked in the skein. It's one of those ones where it's like the other way around. Sometimes I think things look really pretty and all blended together when they're hand-dyed, and knitted up you lose a little bit of that, whereas I think this just got better. And then the white is just an opal sock yarn in the colour Natural, I think, or Cream. And I used that, I bought that for a project a while ago which never came to be, so just used that for the little colourwork motif. Yeah, and I very much enjoy these socks. I was heavily inspired by Cozy Knits and Reads, Cozy Books and Knits. Cozy Books and Knits, that's it. Who also knitted her Quilted cabin socks in like a dark colour with a white contrast, and I just thought they were so pretty. So I've been wearing these a ton, and I could also see myself reknitting this pattern actually. I think it could be quite a good one just to use up little bits of sock weight yarn for the contrast, and I could see that being quite pretty with like quite a plain base of the sock and a little pop of colour for the quilt motifs. So yeah, those appeal as well as a reknit, and I definitely recommend the Woollen Witches yarn. I think she's such a good hand dyer. I don't hear her talked about enough. Then I have 2 finished spins just to show you. So I don't have any details on this one. I bought this from my local yarn store. Oh, focus. This is a natural undyed Corriedale in a grey shade. I don't know where it came from. They just have big bins of different natural colours, and I thought this one was really pretty, and I enjoyed the process of spinning this one. It was not too hard to get it like fairly consistent as a 2-ply. I don't think it's horrendous. It really doesn't want to focus. I was trying to put it in the mid distance, but I don't think it's too bad. It is pretty thick and thin still. I'm spinning on a drop spindle, so I'm just getting used to like all the motions of that, I guess. But yeah, I enjoyed spinning that one up. And the hope is to pair it with this one here. So I spun this one up using Creative Anarchy's Mother Owl, and this is Polworth, and I struggled to spin this. Like, I span it fine, but like as in I found it really hard to not overspin it and lose all the softness. So I did end up actually losing around half of this. So I spun 50 grams and plied it back on itself, and just didn't like how it came out. It just felt like all of that kind of like it's so soft. All of that like gorgeous softness was gone. I'd just overspun it and lost it. And this one is still pretty soft. Like I would say I've retained a good amount of softness, and I didn't want to use what I'd made, and I think that's fine. Like I'd never spun with this before. I'm still really new to spinning. So I ended up just using the second 50 grams, which I tried to spin much more loosely, but it has meant that there's like some weight difference in these two. And I'm hoping I might be able to make like a tiny little like cowl with these, or maybe a hat if I can't quite get a cowl from it. But yeah, I think they look pretty together, right? And hopefully the weight difference isn't too bad to be able to knit those two together. Then whips. So we have 2 whips. My first whip is being a pain in my bum. This is the Margo top, or the beginnings of it. And you start from the bottom. This is constructed from bottom up. It's formed with little repeats of lace, ribbing, and essentially some garter that then sort of tracks in and around as part of a kind of section divide. This has just really frustrated me as a project. I really like the way it's coming out. I love the colour of the yarn, and I think I'm going to wear the finished object a lot. So it's one of those where the process of the knitting, which normally for me is like a big part of my enjoyment of knitting, I'm really kind of just getting through it and trying to do as much as I can. The yarn for this one, by the way, is Kremka Soul Wool in Morning Salutation, and the colour is colour 25. So let me talk to you about what's frustrating me. So the pattern itself is very easy to memorise. I would say, yeah, probably after like the first repeat, I knew what the division sections were, and I knew what section 1 and 2 were. That wasn't a problem. The thing that is screwing me over, and I've had to frog this completely once and rip back at least 2 sections twice, is for some reason I keep misaligning my ribbing. So this, I think, it's a mistake, don't tell me, but I think this ribbing lines up okay here. And for some reason, I don't know what I keep doing, I keep making errors in my very first line of my section 2 with my rib. So I will offset it by a stitch, and I don't understand why I keep doing this. I think possibly I'm struggling to read my knitting looking back at the stitches that have just happened with this particular yarn for whatever reason, and it's not happening with any other part of the pattern. So I've ended up having to literally rip back to realign all the rib so that it lines up again, which has been really frustrating. It also, the yarn itself, it loves to tangle. Like, it wants to fall out of the ball, it wants to tie itself in knots, and it's also quite splitty. So all of those things combined just mean that I haven't really loved the process of knitting this up, despite really liking the pattern and how it looks. So I think I have another like 2.5 pattern repeats to be done with the body, and then I'm going to start knitting flat. And I actually think weirdly, when I start knitting flat, it's going to be a bit more enjoyable because I will have less stitches to be allocating for that rib repeat, and I think that will mean that I'm less likely to keep making the same error. I think what I did in my last rib repeat was actually add stitch markers in every 10 stitches, so even there's like 200 odd stitches and it was a pain. It did actually really help, just because it gave me less stitches to count from if I did like lose attention for a minute and then struggle to quite see on the yarn what I was working in terms of that rib and whether it was lining up or not. So I think that might be the way. But yes, I'm taking that one slow. I'm doing that only in the evenings when I have my full attention on it. Like, I'm not picking it up like between things. I'm not doing it at work. I'm not taking it to D&D or anything else. So yes, that's my evening project. And then the only other knitting whip that I have at the moment are these. These are a pair of vanilla socks for Tom in James Makes Yarns sock base in the colour Oil Slick, and I think it's a 75/25. I'm just trying to pull my label out. Yeah, it is. So 75 Seawash Merino, 25% nylon. There's a little yarn label. And I love this colour. I think it's so fun. I wouldn't wear these, but Tom really is enjoying them. I'm making these in a size large, and my vanilla sock pattern is a slightly tweaked, only in that I do twisted rib, but of Summerlee's I'm So Basic sock pattern. So I'm just working my way through the first of those two socks, but they're running really fast. I did knit Tom ribbed socks as his first pair, and it was just like way more of a commitment. I don't know whether like men's feet just being slightly bigger, it just meant it felt way more of a commitment even than doing my own like ribbed socks. And he said next time don't bother, just do them vanilla. So yeah, we've gone for really highly coloured yarn and vanilla socks. So that's my take to work project, that's my I'm distracted project, and I'm really enjoying just having those to knit on. Then I have a spinning project at the moment, so kind of unattractively presented in this little freezer bag. So I bought 200 grams of this oatmeal undyed Cordell because I felt as though the other undyed Cordell was a really good spinning experience for me on my drop spindle, and what I really wanted to focus on was consistency of the spin and also trying to get a thinner yarn as an outcome. I definitely feel as though the Cordell was easier to achieve that with than other things I've spun with so far, and I've only done 50 grams. Let's see if you can see. There we go. I've only done 50 grams so far, but I've definitely got a thinner single ply out of this one. I'm not quite sure what that's going to come out like plied up. I'm always so excited to ply it. I feel like it's like, I just want to see what the yarn looks like because I ply it back and look, but like I really want to get to that part. So I'm a quarter of the way through this spin. I have another 3 of these separated and weighed. And I'm doing these ones like in an evening. It does take a while, if I'm honest, to spin it up on the drop spindle with that amount of yarn for me. But I think it feels like a really nice project to have. I'm learning spinning with my hands rather than with my brain at the minute. I think a lot of it's about trying to get the movement down. So it felt like a good idea to have like a large quantity of an easy to spin fibre, and just to have that be something that hopefully by the time I get through that 200 I'll feel a bit more confident that I can give the output that I want from my spinning rather than getting whatever I get, if that makes sense. Like not being rigid with it has to be X, but the idea that I'm having some control over it, whereas at the minute it's almost like the yarn is making itself. Those are my current whips. Acquisitions, I have a little pile on the floor. Actually, since we were just talking spinning, I will talk spinning for a minute in terms of acquisitions. So I don't have any fibre, I have plenty of fibre at the minute, but I did get this book, which is the Ashford Book of Handspinning by Jo Reeve, and I thought this could be a helpful book for me to just really understand a little bit more about all of the different aspects of spinning. So it has sort of things around twist, for example. It has details about how to blend fibres, and it has some details on different kinds of like fibres that you might get like commercially provided, or like bamboo, what does it look like, etc. So it's just a useful kind of reference book, and I think because I'm learning with my hands at the minute, that feels like very valid. I don't know why, like the process of it to me just feels very like true. I feel like that's absolutely a fine way to do it. But I think this is in small little bursts going to help my brain understand what it is I'm doing with my hands, if that makes any kind of sense. So I've been enjoying that one so far. And then I also got this one, partly because I feel like everybody that spins recommends this book, and also because some of the fibres that I picked up at the Big Flock are unfamiliar to me, so particularly Dorset Horn, and I thought it could be helpful for me to familiarise myself a bit more with the breeds and what to expect before I actually start spinning some of those more special, not that what I'm spinning now isn't special, but you know what I mean, like the hand-dyed stuff. So you may have already seen this book. You get a good sense of the breed, a little bit about their characteristics, and yeah, a bit about their fleece and details on how to spin it. So yeah, I was excited to get this one. It felt very exciting for some reason to have this one, and I'm just going to use it as a reference book and dive in and read different pieces as I spin different fibres. And then yarn acquisitions, I have 3. So I have this skein of hedgehog fibres. You can probably tell I like hedgehog fibres. In the colour Sin, this is their sock yarn, which is 80% blue faced Leicester and 20% nylon. It's the high twist, and this is to reknit the Summerly little black sock pattern. I knitted this one for myself for Christmas, and for whatever reason the yarn I used, it clearly just, I don't know whether, because I don't have the label anymore, whether I thought it was a sock yarn and it wasn't a sock yarn, probably the most likely, or whether just something about the way I knit them or the fact that we'd had moths at our house, I don't know, but the socks had multiple holes, multiple weak points, and were basically not repairable. And I loved those socks, like I absolutely love those socks. So I'm reknitting them, and this was the closest colour that I could find to the sock. And yeah, I really enjoy this yarn. So I feel like it's safe. I feel like my hedgehog fibre socks last. So this one felt like a safe bet. I think I said this is in Sin. And then Tom's birthday's coming up, and he wanted me to have another pair of socks on the needles for him for his birthday, and he chose this hedgehog fibres sock yarn in the colour Shamrock. I don't think that could be more green if it tried. As I say, Tom is a fan of very highly coloured socks. I don't know whether these will be vanilla. Again, I'll ask him what he wants, or whether I might do a little bit more of a pattern for him in the next one, but I suspect he'll say vanilla because he's really impatient and it will mean that he'll get them like sooner after his birthday. But we'll see, maybe there'll be a bit of patience and we'll have a little pattern sock. And then the last acquisition that I have, that I'm pretty sure I haven't shown you, apologies if I have, is this Drops Fiesta, and this is in the colour Winter Carnival. There we go. And this one is actually has some synthetics in it, which normally I don't knit too much with synthetics. So this is 75% wool and 25% polyamide. How do you say that? Polyamide. We'll see, but it's Drops Fiesta. I really like this colour of yarn, and it's for a baby friendly knit, so I felt as though the like resilience of it would be a bit better. So I'm going to knit this into the confetti cardigan, which is by Nashua Saka. I'll put up a little link here. And I saw this on Instagram and when the pattern was released and just had to knit it. I'm so excited to knit this for Wit. He doesn't have any cardigans, I don't think, at the moment. So yeah, it's one that I will either knit in like the late summer or maybe going into autumn. I also picked up these buttons. Let's see, there we go. By Incomparable Buttons. And I thought that the colours were pretty good together, and I thought it would be really cute to have a really brightly coloured cardigan for him. So yes, that is all of the things that I have been knitting, spinning, that I'm currently working on and that I'm planning on working on. I haven't included in this video because I have a whole separate video, card linked above, for the big flock haul. So if you want to see what I got there and my knitting plans for what I bought with those fibres and yarns, please feel free to check out that video. And if not, I'll see you guys in another video again soon. Alright, bye!